Yes, this is a bit of a history lesson. I don't know if you know the history of the Isle of Wight, but anyway, this is the story of the history of the Isle of Wight, as told by Steve Love. This is my slightly revised version of a song called How the Isle of Wight Was Made, which was written and sung by Steve Love from the Isle of Wight. The song is about how God created the Isle of Wight. How the Isle of Wight was made. The true story. When God was done building up London, he turned his eyes to Dover. He said, "Oh drat, just look at that. I have got all this stuff left over. A pile of clay, it's brown and grey, with bits of blue and red. It cannot stay, it's in the way. What shall I do?" he said. And so he made a mighty spade, and he swung it heartily, and he said, "Lo, well, there you go, I'll bung it in the sea." He picked his spot and slung the lot, and he sent it out to sea, and that's the way his pile of clay became the Isle of Wight. Then God looked around, and there he found a massive mound of mud, a claggy heap a mile deep, left over from the flood. He worked away with scoop and spade to fill a mighty bucket. Then in the sea it shall be is where I'm gonna chuck it. He said, "All this ooze gets on my shoes, I'll heave it to a height," and with a splat all of that was on the Isle of Wight. God had lots of blocks of chalky rocks and flinty stones and rubble, and he said, "To toss all this across won't give me any trouble." Then round the back he found a stack of bones in great profusion. From dinosaurs he said they would cause great creation and great confusion. He said, "All these bones and rocks are something of a blight," and with a crash and a giant splash they were on the Isle of Wight. Then to England God turned his hand to plant a paradise, a field of flowers with brooks and bowers, like Eden just as nice. But all the weeds and nettle seeds he threw them in a heap, and with every kind of thorn and vine he did not want to keep. He said, "All these weeds no one needs, I'm going to have to smite." He dug them all and watched them grow on the Isle of Wight. God said, "All this mess I must confess, it's like a building site, but I've got just the place for all the waste, it is on the Isle of Wight." He said, "I should have a good clear out tonight, I don't need a skip, we'll just have to fly tippet on the Isle of Wight." But then when God came back to see how it had all turned out, he shook his head and then he said, "Of this there is no doubt. It goes to show you never know, you can never tell, that the England I have planned has not come out so well." But then he looked out to sea and he said, "Well, glory be. That little isle with my rubbish pile has turned out perfectly." And that's how the Isle of Wight was made.
Well done, Brian.
I'm not sure whether you knew that, but that's a true story, evidently.
I've heard that story from someone on the island before. You can guess who. It's a good one. Mind you, God's losing out at the moment on that basis, isn't he? Because it's washing into the sea.
Yes.
Steve sung a song about that as well.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, poor old Ventnor, I think, is on its way, isn't it?